Hello, everybody watching. I'm Sally with OwlCrate Jr. I'm here with Shanleigh and Stefan Bachmann, who wrote our November book, which is Cinders and Sparrows. It is just fantastic, and we have so many questions for him. So without further ado, Shanleigh has some great questions.
Well, hi. To start off with, Stefan, would you be willing to give us a quick summary about what Cinders and Sparrows is about?
Definitely. So Cinders and Sparrows is a middle grade fantasy. It's the sort of book that I loved reading as a kid. I was all about castles and spookiness and ghosts, and I could not get enough of that stuff. And I really wanted to write a book that just had all the things that like 10-year-old me would have been crazy about. And I really tried to just like pack everything that I knew I liked as a kid into this book. And it is about an orphan named Zeta Bridgeborn who grows up in an orphanage and kind of believes that she's alone in the world and that no one, you know, her life is going to go on in this sort of, just a very, very standard and maybe hard and unhappy life. And then that all, as in all good stories, that gets turned around and she's actually very special and she's part of a great destiny. And she gets to inherit a castle that is full of ghosts and secrets and mysteries and magic. And I don't know about you guys, but I definitely wanted that as a kid. If ever I saw like a castle or anything, I was like, oh, I wish I lived there. And I wish I was like, I don't know. I think that's a fairly universal, maybe not universal, but it's definitely something that I liked to think about. And yeah, this is that book. I always kind of wanted to write a story like that. And Cinders and Sparrows is kind of my take on a Gothic novel. It has some shades of Rebecca maybe with the, I don't know, but we're not going to go into spoilers, but yeah, there's definitely, I feel like if you've read the book, you know what is Rebecca-ish about it. And I loved those kind of books too as a kid. And I really wanted to use those influences in this story.
Well, I think successfully so. I remember when I started reading it, almost the first thing I said was like 12-year-old me is like salivating right now. This is everything she's ever wanted and stuff. Like right down to the names of the characters too. Like Isabeau St. Harcliffe Cloud. I was just like, I'm swimming in that name. I love it.
Thank you so much.
So what? So you talked about a bit how you wanted this to be sort of the book that you wanted, but there's like a lot of obviously magic, dark and not so dark. Was there anything that inspired that per se, or is that just sort of like the Gothic fiction you were going for?
The magic itself, I guess my goal was kind of to do, you know, I liked scary stories, but with this book I wanted to do not like full on, you know, terrifying. I think my other books were much darker. And I guess my goal with this was to make kind of the magic a little bit like nicer in a way. I know it's about like the dead and ghosts, but I don't feel like it's like full on too much, you know, too scary or too serious. And I guess that was kind of my goal with like shaping the magic and the ghosts. I wanted it to be a bit scary but still kind of like cozy in a way. And I guess that was my goal, to kind of temper all of the scary stuff so it's like just, I don't know, not as dark as the other books that I wrote, because I was really hoping to write something that's a little more pleasant, I think.
In terms of the creatures though, because there's so many that I think are original to this story, but have they been inspired by something else? I'm talking about specifically like the Triggles or the Fangor or things like that.
Mm-hmm. I think they've been inspired by maybe folklore, by fairies. My first book's The Peculiar, and that was inspired by like English folklore. And I've always loved kind of like magic that's connected to nature and kind of an earthy sort of, I don't know, I'm not so into like lightning bolts and all that stuff, and more into like, you know, leafy and ghosty and like earth. I don't know. I really like the imagery attached to like fairy lore and folklore. And so mushrooms that are people. Oh, there it is. That's a trail. That's by my mom, actually. She made that artwork.
Really?
So shout out.
That. Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
So cute.
I love those things. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Mushrooms are like little humanoid mushrooms. I think I would have liked that as like a pet, and I just enjoyed. Yeah, I enjoyed thinking about, what I would have kind of liked as a kid in my house. I think. But I think a lot of it was, yeah, inspired by the visuals attached to kind of like British folklore, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and European folklore. The Fangor is kind of leafy and rooty and full of ghosts at the same time, like literally full of ghosts. So, yeah, I think that was definitely what inspired that.
Okay. I think I also saw on your Instagram that you actually composed some of the music for the audiobook. Is that true?
Yeah, I was really excited that they let me do that. My editor asked me to, if I wanted to, and I was of course like, yes, please, I would love to. And so yeah, I got to do some little snippets for the audiobook, and that was very cool. I think for all of the books I do, I try to, I don't know, I love kind of the stuff that goes around a book, which is why a book box is so cool, because it's like all of the paraphernalia surrounding a book. I don't know. I love the whole visual and like audio and just all the little extras. And so with each book, I try to make like little songs or little, I don't know, artwork or whatever it is. And so it was really cool to kind of like build out my idea of the story through music and like instrumentation. And
Yeah, it
I was
sort of
really
helps
happy to
like
do that.
even more frame and shape a world, right? If you can get like all the different aspects of it.
And I love that. I don't know, my goal in life, I think, is to kind of, yeah, do a full package somehow. I don't know how exactly, but I just really like the idea of really, yeah, all just like working on all the different aspects of a story and a world.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I haven't listened to the audiobook yet, but I mean, I think we all need to just to see like because it's not
Yeah.
just well now it's not just the story that you wrote, it's also the sounds that you composed for the story you wrote, right? So there's like a whole extra added element to it.
Yeah, I love doing that. Yeah.
All the characters have such strong voices as well. Like I just want to hear them all
Oh,
read
thank
aloud and
you.
in different
Yeah,
voices and stuff. So I'm sure, yeah, I can imagine the
thank you.
support that
I,
take
I
care of the
haven't listened to
audiobook.
the audiobook because I feel like I'm paranoid that, you have a voice in your head and obviously the reader has a different voice. So I'm like, I don't think I could bear hearing this new version, but I've heard that people really enjoyed the audiobook. So I heard she did a great job with the voices.
Speaking of the characters, obviously the world is populated with a ton of different like interesting characters, not just like, Mrs. Cantanker, which again, the name of that, Mrs. Cantanker, brilliant. But Zeta and um, Jesus, I'm so sorry.
Bram and
Jennifer
then,
and Bram, that's it. Them as
yeah.
well. Are they inspired by anybody that you know or character or other characters that you've read or just like character types even?
Um, I don't know. I think they're more inspired by, yeah, I wouldn't want to like pinpoint anyone in real life that's attached to maybe a less than stellar character in the book, but I think especially Zeta is kind of someone who I think I would have admired as a kid, someone who's, she has fears and worries and she wants to figure out where she belongs. And that was definitely something that I was very, I don't know, she has the same questions and problems in a way that I had as a kid, and kind of searching for your place in the world. And I think that also, she has her setbacks and then she has to learn to power through them and kind of, persist and through insecurity and doubt and, not knowing exactly whether things will turn out in the end. And I don't know, as a kid, that was something that I think would have spoken to me. So I guess she's not really like a real person, but she's like someone that I think I would have needed in a book as a kid, or like my favorite heroes in books as a kid. But I don't think any of the specific characters are like, or exactly like someone in real life. No.
Okay. But what about Blackbird Castle? That's something I wanted to sort of investigate a little bit because it's a room that's, it's a house that has an almost endless amount of rooms that move on their own. So a character pretty much in and of itself. Where'd you get the inspiration for Blackbird Castle and how it sort of operates?
Yeah, I love I love just environments and castles, and I really wanted to, yeah, kind of, I don't know, it's one of my favorite parts of writing a book too, just like the place where it's set and what, what are what's inside it, where can you go, what can you explore and discover. And I think it's a lot inspired by The Secret Garden.
Mm.
I don't know, the Misselthwaite Manor, I think it's called. I remember reading that as a kid and just being like, wow, I would love to explore this house. And I was always very disappointed that there were no ghosts in Misselthwaite Manor, because I thought, it seems like there should be ghosts there, because it's a very, yeah, and I think that really did inspire the setting, just this huge house with hundreds of rooms, but also with ghosts. So yeah, and I've always been very, very enamored by large houses. And there was a castle close to where I grew up that I would visit sometimes. And I always kind of wanted to explore it, outside of maybe like the marked areas and see what it was really like. And yeah, I think those two things kind of together made up Blackbird Castle.
I mean, who's to say that Misselthwaite Manor wasn't haunted? It just wasn't like the premise of the book.
That's true, which I think is so unfortunate. I think that, well, no, I love The Secret Garden. Like, who am I to say that she should have done it differently? I love the story so much. But as a kid, I just remember thinking, oh, I wish there was like, some fantastical elements in this story. But yeah, definitely. Maybe there were ghosts and she just didn't meet them.
Maybe she was an offshoot. That entire manor was just an offshoot of Blackbird Castle.
Maybe.
And they didn't know.
Maybe Blackbird Castle was an offshoot of
There's like a tenuous connection there. That's like
exactly.
it's happening.
An alternate universe, they're connected.
I wanted to also just sort of touch upon other elements of the story that I feel like you just hint at. And I'm not sure if this indicates maybe that you intend to write any more books sort of set in this universe. But like the Tellurian Prince sort of, to me, indicated that there was a huge history to this world. And there's a ton of other stories happening that we're just getting like one small chunk of. So do you have sort of plans to sort of explore more of this world, or maybe just even the history of Blackbird Castle?
I don't actually. Something I like about stories is that, or my favorite stories is that they kind of give you just a glimpse and a snapshot, and then your mind kind of has to fill in the rest. And I really always enjoyed that. In a way it's quite frustrating because you want to be handed, you want the adventure given to you, but I also like the idea of like, anything could happen in this world, and you just get like little touch points. And I don't really think I'm going to write anything else in this world. But I do hope that readers maybe can imagine for themselves, because I know I did as a kid. If I read a story, first of all, I would go to my parents and be like, are there sequels? And then when there weren't sequels, I would have to, you just daydream about it. You make up your own characters, you make up your own adventures. And I think that's really cool. So I'm, if at some point, if, the book just came out, so who knows how it's going to do, but if at some point there was like demand for a sequel, maybe I would do it. But at the same time, that's not the intent. I hope that the world gives you enough of a foundation, and then maybe some things that you can think about or just like imagine on your own. Because I always like that in books.
Maybe this will be someone's Secret Garden book. So like your book is inspired by Secret Garden, and then this is going to inspire someone else.
That would be awesome. I mean, I guess that's what every writer hopes for, right? That their stories, live on in some form or another.
We actually do have a question from someone who couldn't make the chat today, the Williams Clan 2007 from Instagram. They wanted to know, how long have you been writing books?
I've been writing a really long time, actually. My first book came out 8 years ago. when I was a teenager still. And before that, I had written a bunch of books to kind of get to the stage where I could be published, I think. So I've been writing probably like 20 years now.
Wow.
And I'm 27 now. So for a long, long time. And I'm a really slow writer though. So I only have 4 books out, but hopefully more in the future. But yeah, I've been writing a really long time.
I mean, 4 books at 27. I mean, what are you doing with your life?
Sometimes I wonder, you know, because I definitely have friends who do a book a year, and I'm like, well, maybe it'll be 4 years before the next one comes out. But yeah, I'm doing my best.
I think you're averaging better than like George R. R. Martin, so that's something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole can of worms. Like, I don't know. He also writes huge books. I write children's books, which are a nice, tidy, 60,000 words. So maybe if I wrote epic door stoppers, I would also take as long as he does. Also epic door stoppers that like 10 million people are waiting for. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He definitely has my sympathy.
So in terms of, since you started writing and were published actually when you were still a teenager, what advice do you have for any young authors sort of listening, or anyone sort of hoping to sort of follow that same trajectory?
Yeah, I would just say keep writing. Write really as much as you can, read as much as you can. That's always the standard advice. But I think also it's maybe good as a young writer to, this is what I did. I don't know if it's good for everybody, but sometimes it's good to keep your writing to yourself and not get too much input on it, because sometimes you can get input that kind of like turns you off the path of like your own vision for your work. And it's sometimes really good to just let your own, work stand with you, and for you to become comfortable with it and really stand by it. Because I think it's really easy as a young person to be swayed by different stuff, and then maybe you'll get your story diluted a little bit. And I don't know, as a kid, I just didn't show my stuff to anybody for several years. And by the time I did, I felt like it was something that kind of represented who I was and not all these other voices. And I think that's maybe relevant also for grown-up authors. I think when you're in a writer's group, you can get all this feedback from different people, but at the end of the day, you really have to know what you want and whether or not you agree with those voices that are telling you all these things. So I don't know, I think it's really important to stick with what you think, and also have some trusted voices who you believe if they tell you it's not good. But as a young person, definitely to try to focus on what you want and not to get too sidetracked by other people.
Well, Val also, oh, sorry, Sally, go.
Connected to that question, we have a question from Val, who's just asking, how did you find your passion for writing? Because you've obviously been writing for a very long time, since you were 7 from the sounds of it. But what sparked that, and then what kept it going?
I think reading books. I loved my parents reading to me as a kid. They read Lord of the Rings to me, and I didn't understand much of it, but I remembered being like engrossed in the world and just the idea of building a world out of words. I think that's such a fascinating concept, and that made me want to try it. And I think great books will make people, maybe some people, want to write. So yeah, reading definitely is what made me kind of look to see if I could do it myself. And I mean, I did start writing when I was 7. I didn't know anything about it, and it was basically like a copy of The Hobbit, I think, when the first thing that I wrote. So it didn't, I wouldn't call that, like, I don't know, it's very an inauspicious beginning, but it came from reading. It came from reading a story that I was really excited about and wanting to emulate it. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Val.
Yeah, thank you, Val. We always love your questions.
So getting back into the sort of narrative, So not to go too far to spoilers, but you know, maybe in a bit. So Zeta shows up at Blackbird Castle and immediately is told that she might be an heir, but she also might not be an heir. And then sort of slowly starts to get an idea about what it is to be a witch in this world. And there seems to be other witch families out there that we don't quite see. Are they similar to the Blackbirds of Blackbird Castle, or do you have an idea about like what their kind of magic looks like, if it sort of follows the same trajectory?
I would say their magic is probably the same, because all the witches in this world have the same task of kind of like, you know, taking care of the borders between these two planes. But I would imagine their existence is very, very different, because there's kind of a subplot in the book. Well, not really a subplot. It's just kind of hinted at that the other witches have kind of given themselves to frivolous undertakings and are not really careful about what they're supposed to be doing. And so basically the Bridgeborns are the only ones who are really serious about the threat of the Butcher of Baydun and the Witch. And the other people, I imagine them as just kind of, they have a good life. They became kind of like part of the system and were absorbed into this place which kind of took their power in a lot of ways. They kind of became beholden to, you know, the norm in a way, and that took away their ability to kind of make a difference. And the Bridgeborns are the ones who are still kind of fighting the good fight, I guess, and serious about what they're doing. So I imagine them very different. And the Bridgeborns are kind of like the serious ones out in their castle, just like doing what they're supposed to do.
Could you talk a bit about, you sort of said like they're fighting the good fight, like, and from what I gathered, the Bridgeborns, they sort of like herald or shepherd the dead to the next world, right? Mm-hmm. Could you talk a bit about that idea and where you sort of wanted to go for that in a middle grade, which is not like out of the ordinary, but it is an interesting sort of stance to take.
Yeah, I think my editor actually talked about this a bit, and she wasn't sure if, I guess it's always, you know, you never know how much you want to really put in a children's book and what people will be comfortable with. And whenever I am not sure, I really just think about, again, what would I have been okay with as a kid? What was I aware of? What was I comfortable with? And I tried to make it, again, sort of like tempered, so it's not like super dark, but of course you're aware of, you know, death and all of that. And I think I wanted to kind of make it about, I always loved the idea of like two worlds kind of like coexisting or overlapping each other. And I wanted to not do a portal fantasy. So the other option is kind of to have it there, and then the characters maybe cross over once in a while. In this book, they cross over one time, or Zeta does. And that sort of liminal space that she goes into is something that I think pops up a lot in the stories that I write. Not exactly like that, but a little bit like that. And I guess I think I chose that theme because, again, I really like the sort of the scariness that comes with ghosts and Halloweenish sort of stories. And that was definitely, you know, again, the goal for this book. A book for Halloween, basically, and now it's the new year, and, you know, it's not really relevant, but I think I would have read those books at any time of year.
I mean, I read spooky things all year round, and, you know, 2020 going into 2021, it's a frightening year.
Yeah. That's for sure.
So in terms of the other elements that you sort of included here, like the Treskillian tree, the Elysian Fangor, League of the Blue Spider, and all those things, where did those inspirations come from?
the League of the Blue Spider came about actually later in the drafting process. I don't know. I'm not sure how much I should even say about it, but it was, I think I needed more like structure for the kind of the mysteries that were happening and more of a villain also in this plane and not just in the other realm, you know. And so that came about that way. The Fangor, that was actually my favorite scene to write, with the Fangor and the beast kind of bursting in and her having to fight it in the training hall. That was really, really fun. And I remember writing that actually long before the rest of the book. Well, partially, like I had the beginning and then I had that scene. And then the Treskillium tree. I love trees too. I love the idea of like the Green Man, that whole fairy tale. And I guess, yeah, those are just things that I like and that I wanted to put in the book.
So just, yeah, I guess just a hodgepodge of things that have all sort of come together that helped shape you, the writer, in a story.
Mm-hmm. I think they're all related, definitely. I mean, again, they're all very, you know, earth related or tree related or I don't know. I like the idea of kind of like forest and ghostliness together, you know, forest, castle, ghosts. I don't know. The atmosphere to me was pretty clear when I was writing the book, and that's kind of what I was going for as far as the feel. So I guess it kind of made sense to include a talking tree and yeah, those different elements. Yeah.
I like that. What was your favorite? Like you talked about the Fangor scene being your favorite to write. Who was your favorite character to sort of write from? Because we mostly Zeta's perspective, true, but like a lot of other characters still show up.
I think Mrs. Cantanker was pretty enjoyable to write. I think villains are always fun to do. Her name, by the way, is I don't know if probably the readers did. It's because someone wrote to me about it, but the name Cantanker is not having to do with her personality. It has more to do with the fact that she's not a full-fledged witch because she can't anchor. So it's like a silly little pun in her name, because she doesn't have an anchor the way that Zeta and the real witches do. And she was fun to do, I think. I like the idea of this kind of like glamorous person who also has a very big weakness and is maybe a little jealous of this or envious of this new heir coming in and kind of ruining her game. But I also really liked writing Mr. Grenowy and his kind of like personality. He's very anxious and I don't know. I did like both of those, but yeah, Zeta was very fun to write, and yeah, because she's the heroine, so I would say she's the favorite.
We did have a bit of a spoiler question, so I'm not sure if we wanted to do a spoiler warning here for anyone who hasn't finished the book. But you brought up Mr. Grenouille. We have a question from Magical Grimoires, which is, how did he become evil? Spoilers.
How did he become evil? That's probably a whole nother story. He aligned himself with the League of the Blue Spider, and I guess he was just part of that group of people who really wanted Montabour III to return. And yeah, I think I would have to, you know, write that story down. It's a whole. I feel like that's a whole nother story. But yeah, he's part of that league, and he was working for Mrs. Cantanker and Montabour.
Sometimes people are just evil, guys.
Well, I don't know. Oh, like the details of how he became evil. Some people are, but no, I mean, how he actually became evil. Well, yeah, that's part of the theme of the story too, though. You don't really know who is good and who is bad just by looking at them, and by, you know, and that's part of her like uncertainty. She goes in here and she thinks she knows what's happening, and she thinks she knows, you know, who you can trust. And with Mrs. Cantanker, it's fairly clear in most ways, but at the same time, yeah, at the end of the day, you don't know about what is going on inside people, what their struggles are. And so I definitely wanted that to be one of, and the same with Graham and Minifer. This is also a little bit spoilery, but you know, there are many characters in the book, or there aren't that many characters in the book in general, but the characters there, several of them are not who they say they are, or they look different, or they are one thing pretending to be another. Or, you know, the Marble Prince, he has lines that really are about that, about how many things are just you people are pretending to be things, and Zeta in a way is pretending to be something too. And there's the whole theme of like the witches are feared even though they're doing good things. So that was definitely a theme, you know, like what you seem versus what you actually are. And I think that's the main theme, actually, what you are versus what people think you are. Um, and Zeta thought that Mr. Grenouille was good, and that was not the case. So I think it was just something that I picked to kind of reinforce that idea that what you think things are doesn't actually affect what they really are.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess that does show up a few times as well. Not like in physical forms, like with the I'm not gonna lie, I do not know how to pronounce the spell that sort of has everyone sort of like calcified in the room.
Oh my gosh, wait, I have to remember what is the spell called.
I was
Um,
trying to figure out pronunciation.
Something like
oh, affinidemulsion. Yeah, well, I couldn't even remember the word for a second.
that.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, like that as well. Like what you're seeing, like from what you're given in in one of the very first scenes, is not
Mhm.
what's presented. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and that I think that is the main theme of the book. It's like, yeah, she Zeta in a way has to realize that you kind of just have to push through, whether you know what the truth is, whether you know who people are, whether you can trust, you know, everyone or not. You still have to keep like doing your thing. And she does, and then she gets through and is stronger and happier. And I think, yeah, that's the main theme of the book.
Not to, I guess, because you're saying you're just sort of like leaving the story as is. But do you see Zeta in the future and like what her future sort of can unfold to be?
I do, yeah. I think that's I definitely could write further stories. Like I think there's all sorts of cool things that are, you know, waiting in the wings now, because now the basis is set, and she now is really when the cool stuff start happening, because now she's becoming a full-fledged witch, and she has her, well, okay, this is all like spoilers, but yeah, I think now is when a lot of cool plots could happen. And I do definitely imagine her having many adventures, you know, crossing the borders and taking care of like little things that pop into Blackbird Castle. And, you know, I think Blackbird Castle has a lot of secrets and stuff, and corners that are still ripe for exploration. So I think, yeah, but again, that's what I like, you know, it's not there, so it could be anything. Like readers can make anything of it. And maybe in the future, there will be another story or a short story or book or something. But I've definitely thought about it, yeah. But I also have a lot of other things that I'd rather write now instead of a sequel, yeah.
Can you talk a bit about what you're currently working on?
I'm working on a YA at the moment. It's called Release the Wolves. And I don't know, it's with, well, I'm actually not working on it. It's with my editor, and I'm, you know, waiting to see what's going to happen with it. And then I'm working on a bunch of short stories and probably another middle grade about a girl who gets swallowed by a sea monster and lives inside the sea monster in a ship. And we'll see how that one comes together. But yeah, I do hope to write other things in the future. And I think it's fun to kind of not stay too long in one world, because I don't know, you also want to be, as a writer, you want to try all sorts of new things and go to new places. And yeah, so I think, yeah, it's another Cinders and Sparrows would only probably happen in a long time.
That's fair. We let this one sort of like sit rest a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Let
Yeah,
it
we'll
grow
see.
roots.
I want to hear about this sea monster story. That sounds incredible.
Oh, thank you. I hope it turns out. Yeah.
Sort of pivoting the conversation a bit to something a bit more fun. What animal would you want as an animal servant if given the chance?
Yeah, actually, they talk about it briefly. They talk about witches having like kittens or turtles or really impractical kind of witch helpers. And I think it would be really cool to have like, I don't know, like a little goldfish that you carry around in like a ball that's like dangling from your chest. I don't think the goldfish would be thrilled about that, but I think it would be cool, like a cool visual. Um, I do think that a crow is a very practical one to have though, and he definitely like earns his keep in the story when he helps them. But I think I would prefer a more like odd and a more odd animal. Yeah.
What about yourself, Sally?
Based on watching, we would also, of course, love to hear what your animal servants would be. I think I
Yeah.
would do a reptile of some kind, something that I could
That would,
like drape on my shoulders or sort of have perch.
that would be very cool. A lizard or a chameleon.
Yeah. Ooh, a chameleon. Yeah.
My instinct is always still just like dog, but I did play a D&D campaign where I had a raccoon as sort of like a familiar kind of a pet, and that was a good time too.
That's
Yeah, that'd
very
be good.
cool. I think a dog would be great. Like, who doesn't love dogs? I love dogs. I would be really happy with a dog helper. See, Teensy's there, but she's not really a, I don't know, she's also a ghost. So, yeah, that, I don't know. I would also be okay with the dog, definitely.
Oh, Val saying that she would like to have a bat or a baby dragon. Those are both
That,
excellent choices.
those are good choices. A baby dragon would be awesome, actually, especially if it's a little
Eventually it might grow up though, unless it
That
was.
would be not bad though, because then you have a huge dragon.
And it's sort of just like attached and loves you. I see no downside to this, Val. Absolutely none.
I think
Excellent,
that's
excellent
very
choices.
wise choices.
Same thing with a bat, especially if you go for like the big flying fox one.
Mm.
Gorgeous creatures. I've clearly given this a
Dragon
lot of
does
thought.
not grow, she's specifying. So remain a baby. Explanation.
So like a mini dragon, a teacup dragon.
Oh, a tiny dragon forever. That would also be nice. Yeah. I would not be opposed.
No.
Well, if anyone has any questions, this is a perfect time to sort of give us a hint. Otherwise, Stefan, do you have any middle grade books that you've read recently or childhood favorites that you would recommend?
Yes, this is my favorite question to answer because I love talking about books. And I recently read, actually, I'm almost done with it. It's called The Cuckoo's Song by Frances Harding.
Oh my God.
Have you read it?
Yeah. I
Oh my
love
God.
Frances Harding.
It's so good. I'm obsessed. It's so, so good. I love it. I'm almost done with it. I'm just blown away with the writing and the world building and the plot twist halfway through. I just love it so much. So if you guys, yeah, I see you agree. So believe us, watchers, that it is a great book and it is so much fun. And I'm listening to the audio, which is also great. And I also am reading The Forest of Stars by Heather Costner, which is really, really good. It's a new middle grade, kind of spooky again, and magical, kind of magical realism and fable combination. And I also, this is maybe for older readers or adults, but I read Piranesi by Susanna Clark. So many adults who are watching, that is a great book, and it's kind of also touches on my favorite themes of kind of two worlds overlapping and sort of like a great unknown beyond the world that we live in. And I really enjoyed that book. And I love Susanna Clark. And she took 10 years to write this book. So yeah, speaking of authors who take a long time, but it's worth it. Like, it's a great book. And I don't know. I think that's it that I can think of right now. But yeah, Frances Harding for sure. I would recommend to everyone. Yeah, so
This
good.
is, I have to look that one up. That's new to me.
It just got optioned for Netflix actually,
Oh,
which
cool.
cool. Yeah, so good. I mean, I'm so excited that middle grade is like getting that kind of yeah, it's about time I think that Netflix jumped on that train. I'm real and also I don't know. I can't wait to read the rest of her books and see how it yeah.
Not to like gush about a different author too much right now, but like she just has this incredible way of writing with words. It just makes it feel rich and lush, but like perfect.
I agree completely.
Can't describe
It's
her.
so her writing is just so textural and so precise and I just really like it. Yeah.
Is this
I
your
need to go.
first Frances Harding that you've read?
It's actually not, but I think the one that I read was a long time ago, and I don't think I was like I think I read Flytrap actually
Mhm.
when I was a kid, and I think that's her first book. And I don't know, I mean, I liked it. I remember liking it, but I don't know. Sometimes you also have to be in the right place for a book, and it has to hit you at the right moment. And I think I'm definitely at the right moment to fully appreciate Cuckoo Song. Um, but yeah, I think this is the first one that I've read as an adult. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, just keep reading through all of her stuff because they're just
I
chef's
shall.
kiss.
Okay, I will for sure.
We
We have another question from Val.
Yeah, you got
She's
it.
asking, which character would you like to be for a day?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Actually, maybe Bram because he just gets to cook nice food and then presumably eat the nice food. So I think I would be all about that. And also I feel like he doesn't get into the really like dangerous situations. So I don't think I would want to be like Zeta or, the people who actually do the scary stuff, but I would definitely be okay with just like being in the kitchen and like making food. I think that would be nice. And he can like explore the castle, which is cool. So I would take someone really peaceable and really like not that doesn't get into dangerous situations. Because I think, yeah, I mean, most characters in books you wouldn't want to be. I mean, there's a reason there's a story about them because they probably get into a bunch of bad situations. So I don't think I would want to be many book characters.
That's a very fun question, though. Is
Yeah,
it
thank
that
you.
I think I would choose Miss Cantanker, like before she gets her come up?
Ooh.
Just for a day, just to see. She's very clever. She gets into all kinds of. She just gets to do whatever she wants. So, what does that say about me? I don't know.
Because you're cool. I think that would be pretty cool to be like a wicked witch too for a day. That's true.
Just for a day.
I would also be Magdeburg for a day, to be a ghost like from beyond the grave. I think, yeah. But
Just alternate one character a day.
yeah, see
We'll
which one.
change for everything.
Exactly.
You just got to make sure that you're not them on their last day.
Exactly.
You don't want to
Right.
go through that.
And that you just never know. So maybe it's best to play it safe and just like the most boring character in the book. That's the one you want to be.
Yeah.
Because they generally get to go right to the end,
They do, and they just live their lives, and yeah, they're just I don't know. That would be my choice. I think my goal is to live a very quiet life. So
It's a very good goal, I think. Well, we don't have any other questions from our viewers, but Val, thank you so much for chiming in. Yeah, Shanleigh, do you have any other questions?
I guess when can we expect that fantastic book about a girl being stuck in a monster's belly? That's the only one I've got right now.
Hopefully that will happen this year. I hope that I can stay busy and like churn it out. Yeah, I don't know, but hopefully, in the coming years there will be at least 3 more books. Those are the ones that are like on the burner right now. So yeah, I hope it gets done and that I can stay focused on it and yeah, we shall see.
Well, I have one more question for you, actually. So if Cinders and Sparrows is your introduction to Stefan's writing, can you just give a little bit of a explanation of your first series, the Peculiars?
Yeah, it was it is a duology about fairies in England, and they're very like the dark fairies from English folklore. And that story is, I think, very different than Cinders and Sparrows in a lot of ways. I was really interested in kind of the clash between Victorian England and the Industrial Revolution, and the kind of wild magic of English fairies. And I thought that would be really cool to see what would happen when they collide. And so it's a story about an England where the fairies have come to England and they have been subjugated by the British and now live as second-class citizens. And the main character is a changeling, so half human and half fairy, trying to navigate this world where the fairies and the humans are always kind of clashing and struggling against each other. And it was really fun to write. Yeah, it's also middle grade, but I would say it's darker than Cinders and Sparrows. But I love it. I have really fond memories of it, of writing it and working on it. And it was a really good experience. Yeah, the second book, everyone says that second books are really hard and bad, but I remember it just being really fun to kind of, yeah, complete the world and do a full story over 2 books. And yeah, that was the beginning.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so if you have finished Cinders and Sparrows and need more, you should definitely check that series out.
That would be cool, yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we have come to the end of our time. Stefan, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Germany. It is, thank goodness for Zoom that we're all still able to to do this no matter the time zone. But it was such a treat to talk to you. We love your book so much. And just thank you for your time.
Thank you guys. And thank you again for choosing Cinders and Sparrows. And it's been a really cool experience to like see the community that you guys have around your book boxes. I think it's so cool. And I'm definitely honored. I have my box right here and I was so excited to like see it and just like the work you guys put into it. I think it's so cool. So thank you guys for having me and for choosing it. And yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much. We'll see you everybody next month.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.